Hello, this is James, and welcome back to the channel Survivoneers. I am glad that you have been considering this content, and if you are new, you may subscribe if you like, and if you are getting benefit and value out of this content. Today, I want to talk about how do you stay patient in challenging situations, because as you and I both know, we live in a world of chaos, as we can describe the many things that happen in this world, and we can be bombarded by many things in life. We can be bombarded by our relationships with our partner, whether that be a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or someone that you are associated with day in and day out. We can be bombarded by our sons, our daughters, and family members that just really become overwhelming in certain situations. We can be bombarded by just what's happening in the world right now, with the many things that are challenging America. This can also weigh on our minds. And so you begin to build the case and see the picture of where we are going, that life is not easy. This is why some of the ancient proverbs say that guard your heart, because out of it springs forth the issues of life. But what we are talking about more specifically is patience. What are some things that we can do that we can exude the characteristic of patience when someone's just really, doing things that causes frustration? And one of those things that we can do, and I will couple it with actually a two pair here, is that we can either ignore or embrace the situation. And so what do we mean by this? Well, if we are to ignore, then this can be good or bad because it depends on the situation. Say, for instance, you have someone that's just approaching you, and they get in your face and start calling you names and start cussing you out. You have that option right there to ignore. Why? Because the tongue is a powerful weapon. Once you feed or engage into that person, what is it going to do? It's going to add fuel to the fire. And so I believe that ignoring, and I've practiced this in jobs or in cases with family or just strangers. And you will see, not all the time, of course, if your life is being threatened, that's a different story. When you refrain from feeding in, most of the time, it will keep the situation diffused. So this is one thing that we can do depending on the situation. The other one is that we can embrace and begin to, of course, ask the questions, why is this happening? What can I learn and grow from this? So a twofold decision we have to make during the times of challenge: ignore or embrace. I understand that situations are different, and there are many cases that we find ourselves in, and they're not all the same. But another option that we have is to allow time to take its course. And what we mean by this, in trying to be patient, we might be teaching our children something, and we have already given them the wisdom to take this course of action because you see that it is the best course of action for them in their stage of life. And now you have already given them the knowledge and the understanding of what they need to do. And then we refrain, we step back, and we allow time to see whether or not they are going to listen to the advice or if they are going to continue to go down the wrong path. But sometimes I think we have to be careful not to be hasty. And of course, when we are all human, we find ourselves reacting to certain things or becoming frustrated, or just the human emotions surface. But if we understand that sometimes we allow time to just be that factor of just waiting, being patient, and then good can come about that. And of course, this is not always the case. We have, we understand that all of us are human and that we make our own decisions as adults, and that in time, we can be going down the wrong path and there's not a good result from that. We also have the situation of intimate relationships, and you and I both know that relationships are not easy, and especially if it is an intimate relationship with your partner, patience is something that can be tested every day. And so what we need to understand when it comes to intimate relationships is that if we decide to show reaction or frustration, then there can be a consequence of that. It can create a dynamic of more pressure, a dynamic of mistrust with one another. And so it really is not contributing in a healthy way for us to let our characteristic of patience take its course and say, hey, let's step back, let's talk about this and try to provide a solution. And I know that's not always easy. Both partners have to be willing to actually acknowledge what's causing the problem and to go deeper within ourselves and to get to the root of it. And I know that this can come through self-improvement and therapy and things like this. But not exuding patience in intimate relationships can cause many problems. But then you might say, well, I've exuded patience, I've been patient with them, and there's just no change and there's no effort. Well, that's a different situation. But in general, I am talking about allowing, again, time to let this develop and see where it's going. And then, of course, we can make better decisions. But once we show our frustration again, the emotions surface, and we just are not being patient and just hasty, then that really can mess up the dynamic and not allow for a better foundation to build off of. So far, we've been discussing how to stay patient in challenging situations. And one of those things that we have already discussed is that we have a choice. We can either ignore, depending on what situation it is, and usually I believe that's the case when someone is trying to provoke something out of you. It is best to ignore, walk away, don't feed into it, and you will see that most of the times that will diffuse the situation. Or we can embrace that there's not much that I can contribute for this challenging situation because it's happening, but we can curtail, or we can, redirect this and choose to demonstrate a characteristic that will help us to better that situation. And in this case, patience is one of those virtues that we wait, we see, and then we can make better decisions. We've talked about how this can relate to our children. We give them advice, and it is up to them through time as they gain accountability to accept or, execute. If not, we have more information to tackle that challenge. And we've seen intimate relationships that this is very common, that we have the opportunity to remain patient with our partner and to encourage each other to do better. So the last one that I want to consider is with ourselves, the self. Sometimes we are not patient with ourselves, and we want results fast overnight like that. And whether that is that we are trying to eat better, to exercise more, to increase our financial stability, to be a better person, to be a better partner. There are many things that we are trying to achieve, but we're too hard on ourselves. We begin to make excuses. I cannot do this because I am this way, and I don't have that ability to do that. And so I encourage to you and to me to not be so hard on yourself, and to be patient with yourself, because once you begin to do that, you become more fortified, more confident, and this can trickle down into other areas of life. And in this case, you can share information like we are doing now to help others be patient as well. I hope that you are gaining value from these videos with Survivor-Nears. Again, if you haven't subscribed, you can do so. If you like this content, we are going to continue forward moving with things that help us to live life more skillfully. Thank you.